White lost two tempi. One tempi which he lost was he played bishop d3, then bishop c4, and then back bishop d3. Black played bishop c5 and then bishop d6, right? So black lost. Black took two moves to land to d6. White took three moves to land to d3, right? And white played queen d2 and then queen e2. Black played queen e7 in one go. So black is two tempi ahead. Okay, so two tempi is like he's not only playing white, but he has got one extra move. So this is the position. Now the real firework will start from here. Okay, so we have seen that. Okay, white has just now castled. So let me promote this line. Okay, so white castled now, and black played. Okay, this I was cracking a joke that if black plays rook f8, it will be exactly symmetrical. So this is a terrible move. So that means there's no planning if you are playing this. So here Boris has a very interesting idea. This was in fact shown in another game also before this game. So the idea is if the position is symmetrical, see black has an advantage. So the side which has an advantage in development, he should attack. This is one standard principle that if you have a lead in development, then you should attack. If you do not attack, then the development advantage is nothing. It will dissipate and it's not good. So one of the key things which Boris says is in a symmetrical position, if you're ahead in tempi, whichever side springs the knight to the center of the board gets an advantage. He gets the initiative. So whichever side springs the knight to the center of the board, he gets an advantage. So now, and the other thing which you have to understand is, I always reiterate that, so you have to exchange your bad pieces with the opponent's strong pieces, or you have to exchange with the opponent's strong defensive piece. Okay, so generally the knight, the king's knight, is a very strong defender of the king. It holds the castle position very strong. So black plays knight e5, exclamatory mark. Good move, because the idea of this move is to exchange the black's queen's knight, which was on c6, with the knight on f3. Okay, this is, once you remove this knight, then the black has no, very less defenders. In fact, he has no defenders there. So now you're also attacking the bishop on d3, and this is a slightly open position. So bishops are powerful, as you will see in this game. So black was left with no choice than to take this knight here, knight on e5 and bishop on e5. Okay, so if you see now, black has two monstrous bishops on parallel diagonals. Both the bishops are gunning for the king. Okay, yeah, white cannot play knight e4 right now, because that e4 square is controlled not only by the knight on f6 but also by the bishop. So white cannot say that, okay, I will also play knight e4. No, that's not possible. That square is only controlled by white's bishop, and black has two pieces controlling that square. So you cannot play knight e4, right? So if you see this, black's attack is now, since he's two tempi ahead, his attack is developing at a very fast pace. And these are very, this is called the Hurwitz bishops. There was another player called Hurwitz before them. So he found this idea that two bishops on parallel diagonals are they are very, very strong, and if they are aiming towards the king, it's like it's a very strong attack. So let me ask you a question. How would you like to play as white here? What do you think you should do here? Any idea? Black's bishops are really monstrous. So what is your, can you think for a minute, and if you have some idea, you can tell us what do you think how you will play. You are white now. What will you do? Yeah, Kushan, tell us.
Since you have the black like bishop over there aiming for h2, you can just play f4 to block that bishop off.
Okay, so f4 is what Rotlevi also played. Anyone else also has an idea? Okay, so f4 is.
Sir, I would play.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, actually, I have an idea.
Yeah. First, let me listen, Netra. Yeah, Netra, tell us. What would you play? Okay, let's go to Vihan. Yeah, Vihan, tell us.
Yes, sir. So I was thinking that right now this white's two bishops are right now very powerful.
Whites or
So,
blacks?
sir,
Blacks bishops are
black,
fine.
black.
Yeah,
Sir, you want to shut down one of the bishop so
yeah.
that at least one bishop is like gone from the attack. So, sir,
Okay.
f4 can also be played, and I was also thinking of e4.
E4. Okay. So E4 is 1 minute. So let's see E4. E4 has never been discussed by any of the thing. E4 is you want to shut that bishop, but your bishop also gets shut. If you play E4, your light skirt bishop is shut. Okay. So actually white played F4. Okay. So we'll look at that. But better is, I have told you, see, again, chess is a game of concrete calculation, and I'll tell you what what white was worried about. But you have two open files on the board, the C file and the D file. So you should contest the open files. This is one of the central ideas. It's not necessary that you always have to do, but it is important. Generally, it's an important idea to do that, because otherwise the opponent's pieces will infiltrate into your territory and they will create havoc there. So the best possible move is rook fd1. Okay, so now I'll show you one of the lines which is discussed. Boris says that rook fd1 and rook ac1 is a good idea. Okay, this is good idea, even though black has slight advantage because he's 2 tempi ahead. But out of 2 tempi, 1 tempi you can neutralize, you are white. So only 1 tempi black is ahead. So rook fd1, he suggests. Black has an interesting move, queen c7. It's a double attack. It's attacking h2, okay, and it is also attacking c3, because you want to play bishop c3, queen c3. That knight on c3 is attacked 2 times. Okay, so then the line goes as rook c1. You defend that knight. Now your pieces are centralized. Black takes the pawn on h2. White plays king h1, and you cannot move the bishop right now. Otherwise, white will play knight b5. He wants to play this. Black has to play queen b8. You have to keep the bishop guarded also. That is the only way. Queen b8 or queen d7 also. Queen d6 will also not work. I'll play bishop h7. So you only have a square queen b8. And even though you are a pawn up, white's pieces are more centralized. Black's queen is awkward, and this actually shuts out the rook on a8. So this position can be played, and that is even though black is a pawn ahead, but this is okay. Your rooks are much better placed than black's rook, and black's queen is awkward as compared to white's piece, and this can be played. So this is what Boris only has mentioned rook fd1 and rook c1 is the idea, because see, by playing f4, you are already 2 tempi down. Your development is not complete. And you will see in the game that f4 is not the critical mistake. Black played bishop c7. This is fine. He can still play rook fd1. Again, Boris says that, and you have this idea. You want to contest the open files. Contesting the open files is very important. It's a very schematic thing, very strategic thing. The strategic ideas are very important, because if you do not understand strategy, you will not know why you lost the game. So strategy is a very critical thing. Tactics anyway is important, because tactics is you have to do deep calculation and come up with the answer. So tactics you can never ignore, but strategy is also very important. Here, rook ac1 or rook fd1, both are okay. f4 is okay if you want to keep the rook here. See, the point is, I've told you, rooks, they have to be activated, and they love open files. If they are if they hit a wall, like if the pawn is on f2, before this, if the pawn is f2, this rook is doing nothing. This rook is also doing nothing. Okay, so 2 pieces are out of the game. Black's 1 rook is already active. If he activates the other rook and you have done nothing regarding that, then you are you are in bad shape. f4 is not fundamentally wrong. You are shutting the bishop. You are scared of the bishop. Bishop c7, and still you should play rook fd1. Should still play rook fd1 and try to contest, or you can play rook ad1. This rook you want to keep like this. Maybe probably sometime you want to play f5. So then you keep the rook on f1, but the other rook you have to activate. You have to play rook ad1 or rook ac1. Rook ad1 I like more because you are immediately contesting. So you can play rook ad1 or rook ac1. This rook you can keep here, or still you can play rook fd1 and rook ac1. Okay, you have shut down the bishop temporarily, but you have to contest the files. So he went ahead and made this central push e4. Instead of e4, he should contest the files. Now black calmly developed another piece. Excellent move. All the pieces are in harmony. Both the rooks are occupying the open file. Both the bishops are active, and black is playing a very beautiful game. And after this, white plays e5. Okay, so now this is the crucial mistake. Okay, from this position, it is lost for white. Believe it or not, this is a lost position for white. This looks very natural. You played f4, you played e4, you played e5. Why? Because you have not completed the development itself. See, development is not just that. It's not
development is very important, right?
Yeah. It's not just that you have castled and you are done. The rooks are connected. Your development is done. No, you have to activate the rooks also. The rooks have to occupy some position where it becomes activated. Yeah, Vihan, you have a question?
No, sir, I raised it by mistake.
Okay, so this after e5, it is lost. Gary also mentions this a question mark, and here is from where Gary starts the analysis. Okay, till that point, also I wanted to show, because how this problem arose is very important. How white lost two tempi, and two tempi, you will see how Rubinstein goes for a deadly combination after this. Okay, so e5, and now you see there are two bishops which are open. By playing e5, you have opened this monstrous bishop, the light squared bishop, and then black threw in a check first. Okay, when you have, this is Zwischenschach, okay, intermediate check. Zwischenschach, intermediate moves are very important. This is an intermediate check. Zwischenschach, your piece is attacked, you don't care, you throw in a check. Okay, so now the black king has to go to h1. If you play rook f2, you lose a piece, heavy piece unnecessarily for an exchange. So he went king h1. Now you see they are both the bishops, because of playing this, you are overextended. Okay, white has already played e4, e5 and f4, but now see these two bishops, they are like monstrous bishops. One bishop is gunning towards this, the other bishop is taking away the g1 square. This is like excellent. I mean, the bishops are monstrous, and the rooks also, they are also breathing fire, right? You see these rooks, they are also breathing fire. And compare with this rook on a1. This is really badly placed, and the bishop on b2 is also doing nothing. It is just guarding the knight on c3. So this bishop and knight both are very bad. This rook in a way is little bit defending, but not much. But this bishop and rook, you will see, is not, they are not participating in the battle. And after this, black is winning by force. Okay, by force, and it doesn't look natural. Okay, so anyway, we have 25 minutes. We'll go through this very carefully. Even it might span to tomorrow also, because now we have a lot of calculations to do. Okay, so what happens after this? Black starts with knight g4. Brilliant move, excellent, single exclamatory mark. Okay, after this, Rubinstein plays like a machine from this onwards. After this Zwischenschach, bishop b6, he plays like a machine. Okay, queen, knight g4. This is the concept of overloading. Why? The queen is protecting the bishop, and it is also, there's a square on g4. Okay, so if you take the knight, my rook crashes in, it lands inside. Okay, so this exchange, we'll look at this exchange, but this exchange intuitively also looks good for black, because rooks are penetrating in the opponent's territory, right? So knight g4 uses the idea of overloading. Okay, this is the first tactical blow. Maybe Rotlevi was not expecting this. So knight g4 is a brilliant move. Now let's analyze this. Now we are in now this is now complete concrete calculation. Okay, after from this point onwards, knight g4 onwards, this is concrete calculation. And so let's look at, first we'll look at 2 lines. In fact, we'll look at 5 responses. Gary has analyzed 4 of them, and there's one more response which I've seen somewhere else analyzed, but that is not important, but I'll also analyze that. So this bishop on b7 is a monstrous bishop. So you can do one of the things, you can shut off that bishop. So you can play bishop e4 or knight e4.
Okay.
That is 2 ways of shutting down the bishop. Then you can play queen g4, take that knight, let him take the bishop. And the other is, anyway you are losing the bishop, so you play bishop h7. And when he plays king h7, then you play queen g4. So that is the 4th move, and the 5th is h3. Okay, so let's look at, first we'll look at trying to take the knight. So the first move we'll look at, the more natural move is bishop h7. Anyway you're losing the bishop, right? So bishop h7, give up that bishop, he takes the bishop, you play queen g4, right? Okay, so his king is exposed a little bit, but that doesn't matter. Black has a brilliant move, rook d2. Now his idea is very simple. Now it's again a double attack. You are attacking the bishop on b2, and you are also attacking the pawn on g2. You will play bishop g2 and the queen is lost. If white plays rook b1, you play bishop g2, he has to give up the queen and a pawn for a rook and bishop. And okay, this is 1 point ahead or 1.5 point ahead, and still a very strong attack going on. And this is quite an advantage for black. Black is winning here. If you play rook b2, I play bishop g2. You have to play queen g2. I take this.
So white is very much winning in this position. Actually.
Not white, black.
Oh yeah, sorry. I mistakenly told.
Yeah. So
I meant
this is one idea. And if you don't save the bishop, then you are a piece down. Okay. You can throw in a check or something by play queen h3, but okay, he will go king g8. That doesn't matter. The attack is still unstoppable here. Okay. So this is the first line which Gary has discussed, and this is a line which you have to see. The other line is queen g4. He takes the knight. Now again, rook d3, landing inside, crashing through. Now there are 2 responses which one can look at. One is rook c1, defending the knight. But that again doesn't work because of rook d2. Double attack on the bishop on b2 and the pawn on g2. So again, bishop g2 is a threat, and you will have to give the queen and a pawn for a rook and bishop. So it's about 1.5 point disadvantage, but attack is still going on, and you lose in such, you have no chance in this. There is another thing you can do. Instead of defending the knight, you can move the knight. You can play knight e2. This is another thing. Now rook c2. See, the rooks are, in fact, in this game, Anand also comments that he compared the game between him and Rubinstein. In fact, you should look at that ChessBase. On ChessBase, you will find this. Rotlevi versus Rubinstein, and then Anand's game. Anand has annotated his game. In Rubinstein's game, the rooks are very deadly. He makes it a point that not only his minor pieces are much superior to white's, but his rooks are also very deadly, and they actually kill white because of the rooks. They have a devastating effect. So rook c2. Now the other rook has also entered. So after rook c2, okay, I'm hitting the bishop, and the knight is anyway protected. So rook b1, protecting the bishop. Now there's another guy, Carl Schlechter. He comes up with g6. The idea of g6 is to play h5. The queen is protecting the knight, right? So then after that, h5 will happen, and then it's a problem for you. So the knight, and in fact, the Indian also says h5. h5 I don't like. This is more human move, g6. And next you want to play h5. You can't do anything here. It's real trouble. The knight is going to fall, right? So this is another line. Now the third line, which I want to show you is a very beautiful. Third and fourth are quite beautiful. In fact, all the lines are very beautiful. The third one is white wants to shut this bishop. shut this, the bishop on b7 is breathing fire. So here,
Yeah.
so here I want to tell you a combination. It's a very beautiful combination. It actually, there are different ways of winning. I mean, you can play queen h4, but queen h4 is not the strongest move in this position. Gary, he recommends rook d3. This is the best move in the position. Sack the rook for the bishop. You play queen d3, then sack this bishop for the knight, and then play queen h4, threatening mate, right?
Threatening mate on h2.
Threatening mate on h2. The only move is h3, and then you slide the queen here, queen g3. No way of
The
escaping.
mate can't be prevented.
Yeah, you have to take the knight, and then the queen will dance again to h4 and deliver the mate. Okay, because the bishop is controlling the g1 square, and this is a fantastic mate. This Gary has come up with this, and in fact, I think some other analyst also had come up with this. That the knight, if you block, I first eliminate the bishop. Okay, there is another way of winning, queen h4, which is slow, which I don't like that much, but this is brilliant. Rook d3, queen d3, bishop e4, queen e4, queen h4, unstoppable mate. Resign here. If you land in this, there is no way you can defend this. h3, queen g3, and then you take the knight, and then queen h4 mate. So see, you are seeing how much forced moves Gary has come up with. In this, the best continuation is very forcing. You have to calculate like a machine, and you are gunning for the king, right? What is better than capturing a piece? It is to checkmate the opponent. That is the objective of the game. People who are weak, they only think gaining a piece is the objective. No, gaining a piece is just a means to an end. The main thing is the king, the checkmating idea. So this is a brilliant continuation. Yeah, Netra, you have a doubt here?
No, sir, I understood it.
Yeah, so this is one line. The other line I don't like that much, but that is also winning, is you can play with queen h4. This is not the best one. Gary doesn't recommend this. Gary goes with the forcing line, rook d3. That is the best line. Here, again, you are threatening mate. So white plays h3. Okay, but this also continuation is worth looking. If white plays h3, one minute. So you take on d3, and he takes here. Okay. So in this one, okay, so if he plays h3, what do you do? Again, I take a sack here, rook d3 and queen d3. In this case, how do you win? One way is, see, bishop e4 right now will not win. Bishop e4 right now will not win. I'm just thinking about this one. So the rook d3, if I do, and you take my knight, and this is also winning. I take the queen, and this knight is there. Okay, yeah, this is also winning, but this is not the best one. This is not the best way of winning. This you can do, but that is the best idea. You don't have to. You have to first sack here on d3, and then rook d3, queen d3, bishop e4, queen e4, and queen h4. Right? All of you understand this? So blocking with the knight doesn't work. In the game, he actually played bishop e4. That is the game continuation. Bishop e4 is the game continuation. The other move, which is the fifth move, which I was telling about, was h3. Okay. So h3,
Okay.
Yeah, h3, I still play queen h4, pinning the pawn. White takes this, I take here, you take here, and rook d3, threatening mate on h3, because the pawn on g2 is pinned, right? The black's threat is rook h3 mate, because the bishop on b7 is pinning the pawn on g2. You have to see this thing. There are a lot of pins operating. Okay, so white has only one move, king h2, and then you can give up the piece give up the rook for two minor pieces, and this is also winning. Okay, so for h3 you have that response. For the other three I have already discussed, right? So see, this lecture is a little bit advanced. You will have to see it multiple times to appreciate this. Now, in the actual game, he plays bishop e4. This is another way of shutting the dark squared bishop, shutting the light squared bishop. So he plays this. Actually, the engine's best move, which even Boris mentions, is knight h2, which is an inhuman way of playing. I mean, the idea is you cannot play king h2 because queen h4 is mate, right? So the line continues from this. This is the best move from the engine, but Rubinstein doesn't play this move. He played the more human move, which is also winning, which is queen h4.
H4.
Yeah.
This one threatens a mate.
Yeah, this
like
threatens
this
a
one.
mate. So this I find more human and more logical. Even though some of the grandmasters like John Nunn and Boris, they say that knight h2 is the immediate solution. Okay, knight h2, and you have some lines in that also. But queen h4 is also a very beautiful continuation, and it leads to win by force. Okay, so now let's look at, actually in the game white played g3. Now we'll look at, suppose he played h3. Okay, so what do you think you will play as black? See, there are a lot of combinations right now. So this will stretch till tomorrow. Tomorrow first half also I think will continue this, because they are very beautiful combinations. I want to show all of the combinations to you. So what do you think? How will you win? This is not one move calculation. You have to calculate further. What do you think you will play to win? Any idea?
So as black,
Yeah,
as black, I would. Yeah, I know that. No, as black,
Shushrat, any idea?
sir, I got it.
Tell me.
I would play queen to g3.
Queen g3. I take your knight with the queen itself. No, queen g3 is not. Okay, so this is another fantastic sacrifice. Rook c3. Okay, so the rooks are so active, they just kill white. Okay, there's no way you can survive. Now let's analyze this again deeply and try to look at all the possibilities. Now if you see, what are the pieces which are hanging of black?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, after I took queen g3, and after h cross g4, then.
No, not h cross g4. Queen cross g4. Why will I play h cross g4?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that is not the thing. Okay, so the rook is hanging, the bishop is hanging, the knight is hanging, right? So now let's look at all three of them and see how does black finish white in all three of the cases. Okay, so first we'll analyze. First, what we'll analyze? We will analyze the bishop c3. Okay, so bishop c3 is the first move we are analyzing. We are analyzing all of them. So in this case, it is quite easy. Black plays bishop e4. If you don't take the bishop, you are a piece down. If you say that, okay, I don't take the bishop, then you are down material. So white takes this, and we have come up to the same thematic pattern. Queen g3 is unavoidable mate. There's unavoidable mate on h2. You take the knight and you get mated on h4, right? So that is the first possibility. You take the knight, you take the rook. Now the second possibility is, let's look at the second possibility. The second possibility is you take the, let's see the second possibility. You take
the bishop.
Okay, taking the bishop is really bad, because I take this pawn here, rook h3, and you are devastated. I mean, you can't do anything. You have to take this rook, and I take this. You will have to play queen h2, and I take the queen also. It's mate, right? So see, that's why we have done a lot of mate in 3 and combinations, because in actual game, actually to kill your opponent and to, this is a very brilliant game. You have to know, I mean, you have to be able to calculate deeply and see the mates. So this bishop thing doesn't work. The best continuation here is, that is a slightly longer way of winning. Okay, so here is, now he takes the queen. He takes the knight, queen cross g4. So in this case, what you do is you take, okay, this is a slightly longer calculation, but yeah, rook h3, check, forcing you to take with the, okay, you can take with the pawn also. Taking with the pawn is very bad because I play bishop e4, and what you have, you can play king h2, and then the rook is going to land on d2. You'll be murdered. So you will have to play rook f3, right? Rook f3 is the only way. I exchange the queens and I play bishop f3, and still black is a bishop up and he's winning here. It's not a mate, it's a material advantage. In most of the lines, it will be a material advantage. He's winning here. So the interesting line which is there is he takes with the queen. Okay. Now you take the queen, he takes with the pawn. You take this bishop on e4. Okay. So the only move, there is one line, okay, he can play rook f3. Then also you are a bishop up. That is the best move. Otherwise you get mated. If you play king h2, you get mated here. Rook d2, king g3, rook g2, king h4. This is another idea I have shown you in some puzzles. You are flushing out the king, and flushing out the king generally leads to mate. Then bishop
they can
d8,
get the king out.
bishop d8, the king has to go out, and then the final coup de grace, bishop g6 mate. Okay, so this is a very beautiful combination, and this has been mentioned again by several writers. But yeah, I have mostly referred Gary. Gary has mentioned this line that, okay, this is a force mate here. You're seeing this. This is so beautiful. You take this, and I mean, you have no way of surviving. I mean, this is really spectacular. I mean, once the rook lands on, you first take this, and then this is a force mate. You can look at this bishop d8 and how he delivers. You get to the mate here. So here you see there is, after this move, rook c3, there is no way you can survive here, right? You saw that in all the lines. If you play h3, I play rook c3, and then there is no way you can survive here. In every case, you are getting mated. Whether you take the rook or you take the bishop or you take the knight, in all the cases, there is a forced win for black. Okay, so there is no way you can survive this. There is absolutely no way. Actually, in the game, he played g3. G3 turns out to be worse than h3. Okay, even though it looks otherwise, but g3 is worse than h3. Yeah, g3 is worse than h3. And after this, yeah, so here again, Rubinstein, he came up with a brilliant combination. He played rook c3 again, sacrificing the queen. Yeah, sacrificing the queen. Okay, so he didn't.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is much more beautiful than Morphy's game, because Morphy, the opponents were very weak. This time Rotlevi was also a strong player. He was not a GM, but actually at the GM strength player. Okay, so because GM title was not conferred that time, right? So this is why this is, even though he's developed, but black is launching a massive attack on the king. Now let's see, again analyze with all the pieces which are hanging for black. Now, black's rook on c3 is hanging, black's rook on b7 is hanging, black's queen on h4 is hanging. All the three pieces, he says that, okay, this is like the game of Tal. Okay, when you see the game of Tal, what happens? He generally goes for the king, and his several pieces are hanging. Okay, it's called enprise. That, okay, that's a Latin word. So enprise is, okay, he gives the several pieces are hanging. Okay, and in every case he's coming up with a brilliant combination. So rook c3, that's why this is called one of the best combinations of all times. So now let's see the different possibilities. Yeah, so first let's see, you take the rook. Okay, we'll first see you are capturing the rook. Capturing the rook is like, again, you are getting, the queen is getting overloaded. It is overloaded on h2 and on e4. Okay, so black just plays bishop e4, and if you play queen e4, then queen h2 mate. If you play rook f3 doesn't help, I still take this. This, see the bishop on b6. This is monstrous. This is controlling the g1 square. You don't have any escape. You have to take this. Now it's a mate queen h2. So the queen on e2 is overloaded. It cannot protect both e4 and h2 at the same time, and that is
So,
why.
but actually, won't white take the queen?
Yeah. So that is what happened in the game. After that, also he's winning. Okay, that is the beauty of the game.
Oh.
That is why it's a brilliant combination, right? Otherwise, if you were losing in that line, why would we be studying that 20 years down the line? And why Boris, who challenged Vishy Anand for the world championship, he credits Rubinstein for playing such beautiful games in his lifetime. Okay, otherwise why would we be studying a game if he's losing in that line? Okay,
Yeah.
so the other line, we have couple of minutes left. So what we'll do is, we have seen this case, right? So the only cases which are left is bishop b7 and gh4. These are the two combinations which we have to calculate. Okay, so let me show you. We have 2 minutes. Okay, we'll continue from this, but